to the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the WC podcast. Today, we have our special guest, Director of Nevada's Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation, Elisa Cafferata. Elisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. You know, there are so many things for us to talk about. Yesterday, we were in a room with the governor at his governor's Workforce Development Board. And again, I feel very optimistic about the faces that you convene in that room, the business people, us, the stakeholders in this system. I really believe I think we're poised to make progress like we never have in this system. But before we talk about the future, I want to talk about a little bit of where we've come from. You joined the agency in one of the most challenging times, and we're lucky to have you. I think with a lot of work, we're almost all the way through the worst of it. But because of the pandemic, the UI, or Unemployment Insurance Division of DETR, it faced unprecedented challenges. So tell us a little bit about how that affected the department, DETR, and your staff.
So DETR is kind of an alphabet soup of an agency, and in the employment part of our work, we have both unemployment and workforce training. And so during the pandemic, because of the measures that had to be put in place for public health, we ended up having an unemployment rate of 30%, which then meant we had an unprecedented number of unemployment claims. And there also was an unprecedented amount of fraud. So as you know, we're almost to the end of processing the backlog and catching up from the number of claims that we have had to deal with. One of the sort of direct impacts was because so many people were unemployed and we had so much work to do on the unemployment side, we borrowed about 100 folks from the workforce part of our work to process unemployment claims. So that part of our work actually was, I won't say put on hold, because we did a lot virtually and you could do things online, but we just didn't have the resources. So we're just now getting back to a lot of the workforce investment that we were doing before. So we're almost caught up. There are still some delays, and we're trying to create some resources to help people if they do become unemployed now to get through the system quickly, because there is still a little bit of backlog. But we're really excited about bringing all the workforce staff back and getting back into that side of the business.
And we are too, because I think during that time, I hope that we were good partners to DETR, because there was a time where, we were told, you got to hold the fort because we're in crisis. And so I like to believe that that's what happened. We deepened, I think, the trust and the partnership we had, because now, moving forward, as you say, as you're bringing your resources back to actually do workforce activities, one of the things, we're happy about a lot of things, but one of the things I'm happiest about is that very shortly, 26 people from your staff that are funded with Wagner-Peiser funds, Title III, we're Title I, and this one-stop system is supposed to be all of us together. And so you're helping us do that, because 26 of your staff will be moving into these EmployNV Business Hubs, these American job centers that are focused on employers, that's received national recognition, 2 national awards now. And again, your staff, with the resources that they have, will be co-located in the same building with us, meaning that employers or businesses will have one less place to go. They just go to one place and are able to access all of that. Tell us how important that is for you, that this is happening and the impact it will have on the business community.
I think one of the things that's really great about the EmployNV Business Hubs that are sort of creating a focal point for business is that a lot of businesses were not aware of these programs at all, had no idea that we could help recruit, help with job fairs, help with training potential employees to get the skills that these businesses needed. So this collaboration, which existed in some form before, but now it has sort of a visual focal point, and it's given us the opportunity to really promote this collaboration. So businesses can sort of now see, oh, there's a place that I can go, which is great. We hate being the best kept secret in the state of these resources that are available for businesses. So I think that's been really huge. This last week we passed a really big milestone in Nevada, which is we have more people employed now than were employed before the pandemic. So in terms of employment and the number of people in jobs, we're back to where we were before. And a lot of people are in different jobs. But what that's done is created a situation where businesses now looking to expand and grow really need some help finding people because they're a little harder to find. So I think it's good for us in terms of letting people know the resources are there, and it's very important time to be helping businesses find and train the workers they need.
Absolutely, and I think, as you said, that's the challenge ahead of us, matching this demand for talent. And I'm grateful that it's not only your Wagner Picer resources that are coming, but also your vocational rehabilitation business services reps are coming as well. And so giving access to employers, again, to maybe talent pools that don't compete well in other markets now, employers need everybody. And so whether it be people with disabilities, the reentry population, the vets, all these will be represented in this EmployNV Business Hub and accessible. These talent pools will be accessible to the employers. And we'll put it here, not being the best kept secret. You're absolutely right. That's why you're here. And hopefully our listeners are listening. We'll put it on the screen as well, www.employnvbusinesshub.org. Go there, find out. There's 5 locations now. I remember when we first met you, we went to our very first one at the Vegas Chamber. Mm-hmm. Since then, we've opened 4 more. So I think with that, these hubs are not only resources for finding new employees, identifying talent, and then training them for the jobs that are needed, but also incumbent worker training. That's a term that we use in our world for employees that are already there, but they need upskilling. And one another things that we're really happy about is that DETR is sending to the local boards funds for specifically that, to help employers with their existing workforce and upskilling them. Tell us about why that strategy is important to DETR.
I was really excited to see, sometimes I don't see these things until the contract comes across my desk or we're going to get it approved at one of the various approval agencies. And I was really excited to see this one. As you know, and probably the folks who listen to this podcast know, most of a big chunk of what we do is funded by the Federal Workforce Investment Opportunity Act dollars, or WIOA. And there are some limits on what you can do with that money. It's really focused on getting people into the workforce. So there are limits on how much of it you can use to retrain folks who are in jobs but need some new skills to advance in their careers and help their businesses grow. And I think writ large, what the workforce in Nevada and what the economy looks like is that we know people are back in jobs. They've gone to different jobs. Really, a lot of the jobs in the state have grown in complexity and in technical requirements. So our economy is, maturing or getting more complex, whatever you'd like to say, and really to make sure Nevadans aren't left behind and to make sure businesses can be successful, we need to reskill people who already have jobs. So what's exciting about this partnership and this pilot project is it's specifically designed exactly for that population. And there isn't a lot of other funding in this space. So I am sure working together with you, it will be very successful. And then we'll be able to make the case for finding additional dollars to keep it going. So I really think that's going to be one of the most important strategies we have to grow the economy of the future for our state.
We do too, and we're grateful that you and DETR are taking an innovative approach to try these new pilots because it's what's needed in the community. We're excited about what it's going to be and coming back one day to report those outcomes. Also, again, and these hubs. And if you're, again, a small business out there listening or watching us on our YouTube channel, go to the website that we posted earlier, www.EmployNVBusinessHub.org, to find out about how you can tap into these new resources that DETR is making available at these centers that are focused for employers. But we've talked about how there's more things that we're excited about. Another thing that's coming down the pipeline that DETR is sending our way is working with CCSD, the 5th largest school district in the nation, the Clark County School District. They have what used to be called behavioral centers, but today they call them academic centers. And these schools are places where there's a real strong focus on connecting these youth to careers in technical fields. And so, again, DETR has set aside almost $250,000 to help equip these schools and bring equipment and create successful programs for these youth to be able to enter. Again, not everybody's going to college, and so enter into these, gain the skill sets for the kinds of in-demand occupations that we have available here in Southern Nevada. Sometimes people say it's not high school, you have to start in middle school with exposure. You've also now learned that we take our labor market information for our region and create coloring books for elementary school age. And so we believe, it's never too early. What are your thoughts on how early should you be connecting kids to this information about careers, and, why is it important to do it?
Yeah, I think that's a great observation and question. I was actually doing some research on this topic for a presentation I did to the career and technical education teachers up at Tahoe a couple weeks ago. And there were a couple of interesting things that stuck out for me in doing that research. One is, there's some percentage of jobs for the kids who are in school today. Half of them will actually end up in jobs that don't exist today, right? Because there didn't used to be a TikTok content creator job. That's or, right. 3D printing or lithium manufacturing. Like the jobs didn't exist. So one thing is, the jobs of the future are complex and diverse and not in existence today. So we have to sort of stir the imagination and creativity of young people because we want them to get transferable skills. We don't know necessarily what the job might be. There was a global study that kids in the face of sort of this increasing complexity are sort of when you ask them what do they want to be when they grow up, more and more they're talking about traditional jobs, lawyer, doctor, police, fire, because that's what they know. And it's probably a little too overwhelming to kind of think like I want to go into lithium advanced manufacturing, which we probably don't want them to know about in third grade. So I think it's a critical conversation all the way along. One of the findings from the global study was if kids have a career conversation with a trusted adult who probably isn't their parent, who may not be exposed to this diversity of careers, if they have that conversation in middle school, they do better in school because they understand the reason I'm learning this math or science or whatever is because it relates to a career, and they're thinking past, their next sort of educational milestone. So for sure, middle school and high school is an important place, and just the variety and complexity and if you can imagine doing it, you probably can create a job being it, is a great conversation to have all the way along. So I think it's a great area that we can work on together, and there's a lot of room for imagination and investment.
I love it. I agree. Let's stay on the subject of youth. Recently, DETR announced that 31 students ranging from 17 to 21 21 years of age, they will be completing a vocational rehabilitation summer youth internship program. Tell us a little bit more about this program. Is it paid? How is it helping bridge the gap for this special population?
Yeah, this program has been around for a couple of years. We've actually altogether had 267 students go through it. It is completely paid, so the student is paid for their time, and the employer, provides the experience, but they're not paying for the wages for the student. One of the things that our vocational rehabilitation programs include is a lot of supports. So employers may or may not be used to working with people with disabilities. They may not know, like what kinds of accommodations do I need to provide? Like, does the student need a special computer monitor because they're hard of, visually impaired, or do they need a special hearing aid or whatever. So our team provides those supports and accommodations, not just in this program, but in others. And it really gives these students meaningful, work experience in a way that they can see how they can accommodate their disability and still be successful. And then they've got some job experience on their resume, so to speak. So it's a really exciting program, and it also is great because the employers get the experience of, with a little bit of accommodation, we can have a successful work experience with somebody with a disability who, as you say, might be a potential employee we didn't think about before. And so it's success on both sides of the equation, which is great. And as businesses are looking for employees in these difficult times where there aren't a whole lot of folks, this is a population they might not have thought about before, but can be very successful.
I couldn't agree more. Drazen, who represents vocational rehabilitation on the Workforce Connections Board yesterday, was here during our programs committee, and we talked about that. He actually, now we're going to be working with him and his team on creating some of those 60-second animated videos for some outreach for him to increase his outreach, again, to this population. And so we're excited about that. We've talked a lot, and we're glad it's a lot, about all these positive things happening between DETR and the local boards, because I know it's not just Workforce Connections, it's also Nevada Works in the North. We're excited about the future. But like you said, we don't really know the future. And so when you see how much COVID changed us and all the, the effects of the pandemic, if you will, what are some of the challenges, I guess, and opportunities that you see moving forward?
I think so. I was having a conversation with some business folks this morning, and we were talking about the challenges of finding people in the workforce, and it's been variously described as the great resignation, reassignment,
reset,
reevaluation. But one of the folks pointed out those demographic changes were already happening in Nevada before the pandemic hit. So people over 65, that population is growing 3% a year. People from 16 to 65, sort of what you traditionally would think of as your workforce, is pretty much flat in Nevada. So we were already headed to having a hard time finding workers. So I think the opportunity there is, and the challenge, is that businesses need to think about how does work get done and how can I reframe it to find people who might be out of the workforce or ambivalent about being in the workforce. So for folks over 65, they're all sort of looking at their watch going, maybe I'm retired. But I think a lot of them would come back into the workforce not for a 9-to-5 Monday to Friday job, but for sort of an interesting intellectual project, 2 or 3 days a week, flexible hours. So I think businesses can think about that. One of the business folks we were talking to this morning talked about, young people really are not willing to make the work-life balance sacrifices that a lot of us made. They want more balance. The businesses that are responsive are going to be successful finding employees, and the businesses that don't want to sort of reevaluate how the work gets done, I think are going to have a harder and harder time finding workers. So
I agree.
I think those are two of the sort of the challenges that we're seeing that are also clearly opportunities. And so we're at a really exciting time for the state, in that economic growth is really robust. We do have workers here. They need some reskilling, and the jobs need some reframing. And I think we have a lot of economic potential to keep going.
I like the way you framed the opportunity, yes, as a parallel to the challenge. I would add we've talked about this before with some of our other guests, how, as you said, this is not just the effect of the pandemic, the labor shortage. We were going there. You've talked about the smaller, numbers, or the flat numbers, because our birthing rates, if you will, in this nation have been in steady decline. When I came here to the United States as an immigrant in 1987, they said that families or couples usually had 2.3 kids. I never understood how that 2.3 of a child works. I don't know if it costs less than a whole child, but I had 2. So I contributed to that decline. And my children, who are now 28 and 30, have had 0. And so I can see it in my own life, how that it adds up. And then add to that, also, I mentioned I'm an immigrant. We also have less immigrants coming into the country as before. And so all of that, as you said, we were headed there to this perfect storm that we have now ahead of us. So one thing that and that's not the final thing, but it's one more thing that I'm very appreciative of, is when I met you and we walked the Vegas Chamber with Irene one day to show you our very first EmployNV Business Hub, you told us that you weren't going to be replacing your predecessor on our board. You said, I want the local person to be on your board, Linda Parvin, who's on our board, and we love her, we appreciate her. You very quickly showed or told us with words, Irene and I, that you wanted to empower your people, to make decisions, to own. I want to tell you today that your actions followed your words. And not only that, but your people believed you, because Linda, Carlene, Ben, Marshall, Kara, and the rest of the WIST team, I know I'm forgetting names, but all of them, Elisa, act with us empowered. And that's, again, I think something that Workforce Connections we valued, because we never have to call, you or anybody. I mean, that, again, Kara makes the decisions, that Carlene, Linda, Ben, Marshall. And so I just wanted to thank you and your entire team, because you've been tremendous partners along the way.
It has been, a delightful process getting to know all your team and seeing all the progress that's getting made coming out of the pandemic, doing all these new programs, getting everybody back to their original jobs. The workforce staff is really happy to not be answering unemployment questions, I can tell you. So that's been great. But this is a huge agency, and we have a lot of programs, and I don't see how we could do it without empowering our folks. And because of the challenges that we talked about and the opportunities, really you need your whole team working on these solutions and these exciting projects. So and it makes them happy, and it keeps them around. And we, like most state agencies, have about 25% of our positions are vacant. So if folks want to join in on the excitement and come help work on this, we would love to have them. So I want to empower my people as much as possible. I want to give them as much flexibility as possible. I want to give them as many exciting projects to work on as possible. So we'd love to have folks. We're doing workforce recruitment for ourselves because we have so many vacancies.
Absolutely. So yes, if you want to be a part of all the exciting stuff that you've heard here, if you're a listener or a watcher on our YouTube channel, I thought I had it back because we're 8% open positions. You're 25. So I'm not going to even say go to our website. Go to the DETR website first, and let's get Elisa fully staffed so we can do more of this amazing work. before I say goodbye, I want to thank you again for not just for being here, but again for being such a great partner. And I wanted to give you the mic one more time for any of our listeners or our watchers to leave with any final thoughts.
We didn't talk about the subcabinet that the governor created, which is Jobs and Economy subcabinet, and it doesn't have a permanent sort of ongoing meeting. It's really an ad hoc group, but one of the things the governor identified as we've been moving forward with these funding streams and these new programs is we want to make sure that all the different agencies at the state, including the economic development, the education, the higher ed, that we're all working together to make these kinds of projects happen, remove barriers where they pop up between agencies, and make sure we're putting supports in place as needed to help people get back to work and help businesses find the folks they need. So one last.
No, and tell me who the members are of the subcabinet.
Sure. The subcabinet is, I'm representing DETR. We have Lisa Levine from GoIn, which is the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation. We have Michael Brown from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We have Joan Ebert from the Nevada Department of Education. We have Dale Urquiaga, who's the acting chancellor for the Nevada System of Higher Education, and Mark Wager from the Division of Veterans Services.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying out the acronyms, because usually when people say NSHE, GoIn, so thank you for saying who they were with. And by the way, we have Dale scheduled for a podcast. Michael Brown has been here, so we need to get Lisa, Joni, and David in here. So if you can help me with that, we'll get them to talk more.
We'll do it.
About workforce development. Thank you again, Elisa, for being here today with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for another episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you in another episode, and until then, stay safe. Okay, well, Lisa, thank you for staying over for our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'll ever be.
Good. The first segment is called Your Favorites. So I'm going to give you several categories, and you're just going to tell me your favorite. Tell me your favorite food.
I do not like favorite questions because I have so many different things. So
you can give me 2 or 3.
What category are we talking about?
So if it's food, is it Italian, Chinese, or?
Oh, I'm Italian. So Italian.
Okay. Yeah. Your favorite book?
Also way too many to name. So the book that I have purchased the most copies of and given to friends as a fun read is The Princess Bride.
Oh, I like that.
Not the movie,
okay.
the book.
The book. Very good. Your favorite city to visit, or the one you visited the most?
The one I visited the most is the Bay Area in general because I went to college there, and so a lot of my friends still live there. The one that's on my sort of list to do next soon when I'm not visiting grandkids is New Orleans.
Nice. Your favorite place to go with your family? Is it still the Bay? Or is it another place?
I used to drag my kids along to the Bay Area all the time. I would say, most recently we've done a lot of camping at Pyramid Lake, and just hanging out together, camping at the lake is probably the sort of the thing our family did the most.
Yeah, and that's very pretty up there. Your favorite musical artist or group?
Well, my favorite musical artist is my son, who makes his own rap music, and he's on Spotify under Mazer.
Nice plug.
So I'll leave it there.
Awesome. I love it. We're going to find him, and we're going to pop his picture here.
It's rap music. It may not be safe for work, all of it. Let me just warn you. But
we'll edit. But when we publish this, you're going to send it to him because he's going to get to see himself on this video.
There you go. Okay.
Now, your last favorite, your favorite holiday.
I always used to tease that I'm kind of a pagan, and the great thing about being pagan is that there's a holiday for everything, because pagan just means not one of the major religions, Jewish, Christian, or Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through all the other not the religions of the book. So so then you have all the other religions and those kind of cultural traditions to choose from, like Norse and Celtic and Hindu. And so I always like to celebrate things like the summer solstice, winter solstice, spring and fall equinox. They're just great times to get together and celebrate, and you're not competing with a lot of other people's holidays.
I love it. Well, despite your aversion to questions about favorites, you successfully made it through the whole segment.
Woo!
Congratulations. The second segment is called Tough Choices. So I'm going to give you 2 choices, and you're going to give me which one you prefer. You ready?
Okay.
Would you rather vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Are you more of a night or morning person?
I am totally an unrepentant night owl.
I love it.
As you know.
Yes. And on the weekends, would you rather sleep in or wake up early to have a hearty breakfast?
I am a big fan of sleeping in, catching up, having a pretty decent breakfast, reading, drinking my coffee outside if it's nice.
I love it.
That's my favorite.
That's a great
recuperation weekend.
I love it. If you had to choose, would you rather owe money or owe a favor?
That's a great question. I probably would rather owe a favor.
Okay. And if you could live anywhere, would it be in the city or the countryside?
I am really happy in Reno, which is the biggest little city. It's the right size city for me.
It's a perfect combination.
Yes.
Here's a tough one. Would you rather have justice or grace? Tough one.
It is a tough one. I think I think grace is available to everyone. I think justice is something that is a community project, I guess I would say.
Yep.
I think we get in trouble if we are individually sort of trying to create justice. That would be, I think grace is available to all of us.
That's probably the most profound answer we've gotten so far in all of our podcasts. Thank you, Elisa. The final tough choice category, actions or words?
I am a big fan of actions, and at the same time, I was having this conversation with just earlier today, and big, profound, complex actions like the projects we're working on, there's a time for the words and a time for the plan and then a time for the action.
Well said. We're rounding the corner to the final stretch. The third segment is called Finish the Sentence. Are you ready?
Okay.
Not many people know Elisa likes to...
Zip comes to mind.
Oh, wow. Zip line?
No.
Oh.
I have done. Well, not many people know, except for my team, that Elisa goes to Burning Man for the last 4 years.
Very cool. Burning Man. Wow. Elisa's favorite way to relax is...
That is no secret. Since taking the job at DETR, it's been especially important to spend time reading. So really that is how I recharge, is every weekend. I pretty much read a book every weekend, and then I can do all the other things I'm supposed to do over the weekend.
I like it. If Elisa had a reality TV show about her life, the title of her show would be...
Great question. Again, nothing just pops to mind, but I can hear all my kids' voices, and so
Family Ties.
Right, or it would be she's she'll tell you she doesn't have a favorite child, but really her favorite child is. And they're all in this competition for how they are or aren't my favorite child.
I can see that totally. And I think you alluded to this earlier. The best part of living in Nevada is?
I think Nevada is a great state where you can find everything. One of the reasons Reno is called the biggest little city is that we had arts. We have an accredited arts museum. We have symphony and dance in a city that, culture far beyond what you would find in a city of our size. If you are into outdoor recreation, the camping, the hiking, that's all here. You've got Las Vegas, which is entertainment capital of the world, shopping capital. So we really have just about anything anybody could ask for, and great communities of people who are really passionate about making the state a better place to live.
Well said. 3 words that describe Elisa are?
I'm going to go back to unrepentant night owl.
I like it. Unrepentant night owl.
Yeah.
Wow, you've made them all compound. Very good. Here's the final sentence. Doing the WC podcast here with us today was?
A delight.
Awesome. Well, we want to thank you again for staying over and doing this segment.